Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Tradigital Tutorials. For today's video, we're going to be covering anticipation in animation. Anticipation is the second principle laid out in Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston's book, Disney Animation: The Illusion of Life. Anticipation refers to the movement before the movement, which may sound weird. It helps to picture a pitch in baseball. When you're throwing a ball, you don't just put your hand out in front of you, then you would have no momentum and it would look a little funny. Instead, we wind up. We lean back, pull back our arm, then take a step forward, and our body leans over, and then our arm slings forward, until finally we release the ball. In this example, the wind-up is the anticipation of the movement. Without it, we couldn't generate the momentum needed to get the ball to home plate. This effect also applies to our animations. A benefit of animation is that you can push the boundaries of what is real, but you still have to be realistic. If we just move an object, the audience is going to wonder how it got the energy to do that. It may also be too sudden for the audience, so the movement may not be clearly articulated. In this video, the example I'm going to be using is a flour sack. The flour sack is a great object to practice with when making animations, and using a flour sack has been a common practice since the 1930s. It has a semi-rigid body, but is able to flex and bend. Also, it forces you to learn how to animate emotions using body expressions, since the flour sack doesn't have a face. I encourage you to try to use the flour sack once you feel comfortable. In this animation, our flour sack is starting on the ground. In order for us to make the flour sack go up, we first have to squash it down, which is the anticipation for the jump. This is just like when you bend your own knees before you jump. After we bring the flour sack down and hold the frame, we can begin to bring it back up. At first, we'll stretch our flour sack and use fewer frames, as this is when the object is moving at its quickest. Once it begins to reach its peak, we start to pull back on the stretch and slow it down by adding more frames closer together. Once we bring the flour sack to its peak, we can bring it back down to the ground. Again, starting off slowly since it hasn't yet reached its maximum speed, and then speeding it up and stretching it right until it hits the ground where we squash it again. Since this is a flour sack and it has some weight to it, we can also make it slump over a bit. Another practice that we can do with this flour sack is combining anticipation with squash and stretch and changing the perspective. In this next example, we are going to have our flour sack hop away from the camera. We go through the same process that we just did before, but this time we have to shrink it as it goes towards our vanishing point, or the horizon line. Shrinking it and having it go towards our vanishing point gives off the illusion that it's hopping away from us. Now I just finished up the animation by adding color and shadows, and here's our final product. Right now it doesn't matter to me that it is a little bit messy. We can always go through the animation and clean it up later. What is most important right now is that we have the movement and timing correct, and the volume of the flour sack stays consistent throughout the video. Especially since we are beginners, I think it is important to first nail the animation's movement and story instead of having perfect drawings, and especially on a rough pass. Related to anticipation is the concept of follow-through. Going back to the pitching analogy, a person throwing a ball does not stop as soon as he throws the ball. If he did, it would seem more like a robot than a man. Instead, his body keeps going forward since he just had all this momentum. This movement after the main movement is called the follow-through. In order to demonstrate this principle, I'll actually be animating the baseball pitch. In the baseball pitch, I anticipate the actual throw with a slow wind-up. The pitcher is gathering momentum and building up force to throw the ball hard. After he winds up, he springs forward, pushing first with his back leg. Finally, he slings his arm forward and releases the ball. During this, you can also stretch the arm in order to make the movement smoother and portray the speed at which he's pitching. Finally, his front foot hits the ground and his arm keeps going down. His body also slumps over. He's still slowing down the momentum that he just built up, so the force causes his body to continue forward. Finally, we bring the pitcher to a stop after slowing him down. Thank you everyone for watching this video today. Before I go, I would also like to direct you towards Alan Becker's channel. He has a playlist of tutorials that you can follow along with, and his animator versus animation series is very fun to study. If you like this video and would like to suggest a topic of study for a future video, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you.